Okay, so problems in life never stop. And one of the best things to do is commit ourselves to a process to help us best handle the problems in life. It's one of the most important skills we can have to make the most use of our time here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take Joel's current challenge in life right now, which basically comes down to, and I'm just going to try to articulate it here as you described it. It's basically having challenges working for myself, making routines, scheduling, staying accountable. It's hard to change my nature because I'm so focused on variety and excitement, and I need to try to become a more structured person. Okay, so that's the current challenge. Did I accurately describe it, Joel?
Yeah, I think right now I get variety through unhealthy ways, like spending too much time on Facebook or things that just aren't productive. And so I'm trying to use what's unique to me, like looking for a variety and adventure and things, but try to work that into, my work routine or my time management so that it's I'm not trying to restructure myself. I'm trying to work with what works well and find a path within that. But yeah, you got it.
Excellent. So you're just trying to bring some more fun and excitement into work, and that doesn't go along well with the whole structured piece, right?
Right.
Perfect. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're just going to go around and people can answer or they can say pass. And we're going to ask a bunch of questions. Now, the first bunch of questions are going to be to help just get into a good state about this particular challenge. Because once we're in a good state, then we're more creative. So the middle sequence is going to be all about unpacking all the learning. And then the final series of questions are all going to be very solution focused, okay? So the first question I'm going to throw out there is, why should I be grateful? So just if we're all in this situation, question number one is, why should I be grateful? Joel, do you want to start off?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like gratitude is really the one of the best kept secrets in life, and that I wish more people would tap into, because when you're in a spot of gratitude, you don't tap into the problems, you don't tap into limitations, you're just being grateful for what is. And it's when you open yourself to what is already present, and there's so much to be grateful for. I mean, you could be in the worst situation you can think of, and there's always things to be grateful for. And when you focus on that, it literally opens the door to more, things coming into your life that bless you. And it also puts you in a great state of being joyful and receptive to new things. Yeah, gratitude's the pathway to better stuff. And obviously you don't do it just to get more stuff. You do it because it's just a more joyful and a place of more abundance. And even if, you look at people, I think it's Burma that deals with no gross national happiness, and they're some of the poorest people, but they're the happiest people, and they're focused on what they have, even though it's not that much.
Perfect. Yeah. And lots to be grateful about in this particular challenge too, right? Being grateful for the fact, hey, I've got a job, right? And B, I'm still getting by. Like this problem of, not being structured has not led to the demise of this business or anything. Like we're still succeeding in spite of this, right?
And hey, I woke up this morning.
Yeah, exactly. Patty or Chris, either of you have anything to throw in for what specifically about this should I be grateful for? Okay, I don't, I think they're
muted.
There we go. Is that better?
Yep.
Gratitude will be the emotional and spiritual energy baseline for the rest of the 20 questions. That when you are in that state of gratitude, when you are in the state of receiving, when you are in a spiritual state, you are looking at things differently. Your perspective has changed. You're no longer looking at the nuts and bolts of things. You're looking at things at a macro level and feeling at a macro level. So by feeling in that way, it allows you to be able to change your perspective and hence change your strategy and change your actions, because you have changed your perspective because of the change in your spiritual focus.
Okay, great. Patty, do you have anything to add on this one? If we're in this situation, we need to be more structured at work. we have a natural tendency to just, oh, there's Pat. We have a natural tendency to just want to be fun and keep things exciting. Why should we specifically be grateful with this circumstance?
Well, I don't really have anything more to add what Joel and Krishna said, to it. I think gratitude is the first place I start every morning when I journal. I say, what am I grateful for? Because, and it's not just one or two things. I dive deep into that so that I can begin to have a place of seeing where all the goodness is in my life. And it changes my attitude, it changes my perspective, and it also changes my heart. So it gives me before I even plan or anything else, I always start the day in a place of gratitude.
Okay, excellent. Now, taking this particular challenge, here's question 2. So question 1 is, why should we be grateful? Because that starts to calm the mind and everything else. Question 2 is, how are things not as bad as they seem with this problem? How are things not as bad as they seem? Joel, any thoughts on that?
That's a great question. I think, it all starts with great questions. I think a lot of times we get, especially in this age, distracted from what the real challenge is with a lot of superficial stuff.
Yeah.
So just really realizing that, it's not a big challenge. Even what Chris was saying about, I feel like Chris kind of relates it, going back to the first question of meditation, like keeping your cup so full that nothing else can come in. And with that, when problems do come at you, there's perspective of, it's not as bad as it seems. It's not anything that we haven't. If you look back and maybe even keep a log of like challenges you've had, and every time you've met that need, it's easy to see in hindsight, even in the short term, when stuff seems like it's hitting the fan, of like, hey, I got this. I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
Exactly. Yeah. So you've overcome way bigger challenges than this before. You're not going to die a horrible death from this problem, right? So definitely not as bad as it seems. Chris or Patty, any you want to add anything else to it? No, you guys are good. So why don't we go on? Yep, Chris.
Rather than thinking about how this is not as bad, that almost gives it credence to have a certain amount of spikes or pain level to it. You're giving it undue respect. You could actually, rather than giving it the respect that it deserves as being a bad problem, it's just a puzzle. It's something that can be overcome. So rather than already giving it a negative connotation, you're already thinking, how am I going to conquer this? If you're already thinking about how I'm going to conquer this, it stops even being bad.
Well, and also spin that around, like you're saying, not giving it a negative connotation. Like if problems are the gifts we grow from, then it's like every problem can be a gift.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that about reframing it, so it's problems aren't problems.
Yeah, they're opportunities.
The growth opportunities.
Once we really expand our perspective beyond the little self, we realize they're nothing but opportunities, and it's all about shifting that mindset, right? Which these questions help do, and that's going to be the idea with this. Now, number three question. What help and resources are available to me? What help and resources are available to me? Joel?
Wow, that's a big, it's funny because I don't think I ever think of that necessarily in terms of a question, but if I do stop to think of that, I mean, I have such a vast network of people that are like wise, loving, sage people that I guess I do actually tend to think of it a lot in terms of, myself, of like, what am I going to do to get out of this? Or, even my relationship spiritually with my creator, of like, what do I need to know here? But yeah, there's tons of resources, both in terms of people, or even like, you know, we live in different times these days where we just Google everything, but like, hey, libraries are still there.
Yeah. I mean, you could just Google having difficulty being structured with work, right? Like creating accountability and stuff, right? And I'm sure this is not a unique human problem, but given modern day conveniences, we have access to a buffet of the world's answers from across all space and time, right? We're in a very unique situation here at this time in human history, and without a lack of resources, just resourcefulness, right? So the answers are out there. If we just give ourselves a 10 out of 10 effort, we can find the answers for sure. Any other thoughts, Patty or Chris?
I just have an example.
Yeah.
I have a birthday party to go to this weekend for a 6-year-old, and I bought a, magnetic dartboard that I thought would be really cool.
Yeah.
And so they're not the pointy ones; they're just, they got the round magnetic end on them. But at 6, I thought, oh, this would be great, and his granddad's got like the legit one, but like he's got his own. It would be so much fun. And but something inside of me said I should probably run it past his mom, and she was like, no, he doesn't play with toys anymore. So I thought, what am I going to get this? How am I going to pull something together, to be relevant and still a part of the function? And
Did she suggest anything?
Clothes. I said, what 6-year-old likes clothes? So you know what I did? I started hitting the loop of my friends who I knew who had kids around that age, began to speak to them, and they were like, wait, what? It's crazy. And then I finally one that dug under the surface and said, what is he like in school? And I said, well, he's good. The United States has a STEM program, heavy into like electronics and mathematics and things like that. And I said he got into that, and she goes, oh, get him a STEM project thing on Amazon, it'll be great. So now I'm over Amazon looking at these things, and one thing after another, but it takes courage to use your resources. If you're in a game, you're like, hey, what do I got in the community chest that I can work with to get me to the next level? And it's the same reality wise. We have an endless abundance of resource available to us if we just tap into it.
Love that. Love how you shared a story too. I love that. I love your style of sharing and contributing. It's a great storytelling. Okay, why don't we go on to the next one? Question 4. What resources do I have inside of me? Okay, Joel, in particular, do you have the potential to be 10 out of 10 focused? Have you done it before?
Yeah, I have. And I guess it's just a question of how to get into that space, or find the motivation or the leverage, or tap into the circumstances that contributed to it.
So we could also say, if you think back to times when you were 10 out of 10 focused, what were your success ingredients? How did you set conditions up for that? And how might you set conditions up for that in future?
Yeah, I mean, looking back, it's usually, whether it was in college, I would always work really well with deadlines. I would get stuff done predominantly closer to when they were due, and I find that still kind of holds true. When I have things that are coming up, I tend to just like put on the blinders, forget about the distractions, and kind of just work on it till it gets done. So for me, that's really helpful. Eliminating distractions is also really helpful. If I know that, I screen suck on Facebook to like escape things sometimes for 10-15 minutes for a break, but then like an hour and a half later, I'm, in the endless feed. Yeah, I guess it's just a matter of taking a look at back and making a map of what those things look like.
Yeah. And you could even have these questions placed in front of you. What's my deadline? How can I eliminate distractions? How can I put on my blinders? just to initiate that thought flow that takes you back to that focus space, right? Because those questions will lead to thoughts, which lead to other thoughts, which can bring your momentum back to that place potentially, right?
Mhm. And my wife has an approach that she'll just say, what do I need to focus on today to contribute, to, I forget how she words it, but my better future right now. Like, what do I need to, what do I
Yeah.
need and just be open. And I find every day, if I just think of like, what 3 things do I need to get done today? Um, that's always helpful to have kind of guidelines, because I think intuitive, we know a lot of what we need to know. We just have to take time to, pull out that wisdom and use questions like these to facilitate it, and then stick to it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then one of the other things we could say for resources inside of me, we could always say, I have the potential to be 10 out of 10 disciplined. I have the potential to be 10 out of 10 creative. I have the potential to create fun and excitement in many productive ways. We might want to even unpack some of that stuff. I have the potential to be coached, right? Chris, Patty, do you have any thoughts on this question? What resources do I have inside of me for problem solving?
Well, when I had purchased the game, I thought, man, I really hit the nail on the head with this dartboard. I hit the bullseye. But anyway, obviously I totally didn't even get it on the board. So I was like, it's not that big of a deal, because I have the ability to find what I need to find somewhere, somehow, because I always have and I always will. I may not have the answer, but I know where to go to get it, or at least lead me in the direction to get me to the next step to know. So that builds inner confidence, to just knowing that my skill set and ability is there. And also it helps to manifest things inside of you, because to manifest things even outside of you, because you know that you have every resource inside of you to do what you need to do.
You nailed it. You nailed it. You can be who you need to be when you need to be it. You can be disciplined. You can be focused. You've done it before. You can do it again. You've always found a way. You're still here today. And you can find a way again, right? Love it. Okay. Question 5 is, how might this lead to growth and progress? How might this lead to growth and progress? Any thoughts on that, Joel?
That's an interesting question too, because I don't usually ask myself. I just kind of get in the process and push forward. But I know that there's always value in having the end in mind. Like, that kind of goes back to the why, but just having the target, because if you're shooting a bow and you don't know where the target is, it's like, how are you going to hit it? So yeah, I think it's definitely great to know where you're going, to have to set a goal, to visualize or have some sense of what you're going after. Otherwise, it makes it much harder.
Yeah, and would you say it's also a great opportunity to develop a process for your business that keeps you on track?
Yeah, which is kind of the end goal. Obviously, you don't want just a one-off.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it might lead to inner growth and progress there, just developing better processes and systems for this stuff, right? Chris or Patty, any other thoughts on question 5? How might this lead to growth and progress? Or question 6, how is this happening for me?
Well, I think as far as growth is concerned, if your answer isn't leading to personal growth, then your answer is a non-starter to begin with.
Yeah.
Because all this is designed for growth, to make it through these difficulties, to lift this weight. So, yeah, so if your answer isn't leading towards personal growth and development, your answer is probably not heading in the right direction.
Yeah, it's all for our growth and development, even if we don't understand it yet in the moment. It's just trust that all of these uncomfortable moments in life have been uncomfortable because it was right on the borders of our competency and wisdom and understanding at that time. And that discomfort is what's pushed us forward in order to get out of it, right? Even if we don't understand it right now.
Well, and for me, I go back to the same story in that this led me to growth as well. In that, here's a single mom raising a son, and she's wanting to give him the best opportunity and education that she can. She's very driven to be able to make sure that he's, able to get into this program. He's, she spends a lot of time with him with his schooling and his studies. And so this is a focus for her. So that was a growth point for me. It also took her courage to tell me that's not the gift. He's not going to like it. Right. And I had already set her up to be okay with saying no in my question. Hey, and if I'm just asking before I get it, which I already got it, but I'm just asking before I get it to him, because if it doesn't work or if he already has one, it's no problem. So she was able to tell me, no, he's not into toys. So that allowed me to back out of that a little bit and then begin to do my search. I learned something out of that. It was growth for me and it was progress towards the next step. And now I didn't even know this, but they have these STEM kits, that you can buy for kids that are more geared toward learning, but they're educational, but they're not considered a toy. So that was the growth for me.
Excellent. Excellent. So good. Good. And we might say that we should have hope for a better future because, as we've all been in these situations where we're struggling with a problem in life, these are the moments that get us on the path to being wiser and better for future, right? And there's certainly lots of forces out there that are working to support us, seen and unseen. So let's jump ahead to question number 8. Question number 8 is, how can we best understand what's going on? How can we best understand what's going on? I might start here and just say, usually what I try to do is clarify there is a finite amount of human problems, a very finite amount. There's a set list. And I try to clarify what is the nature of this problem. And this one to me sounds like focus difficulties more than anything. It's just focus difficulties for whatever reason. Maybe we divert ourselves with doing some fun distractions and doing stuff like that, but it's really kind of like a timeless classic human problem, or at least that seems to be a part of it from my vantage point. How else might we, and sometimes it's helpful to get some outside perspective on this and just describe the situation to somebody else and say, hey, what part of this problem is the problem? Right? So anyway, Joel, do you have any thoughts on this one? How can we best understand what's going on?
Yeah, for me, what you're saying about the outside perspective is really what's helped me a lot. Is just to talk to people, like whether it's my wife that's close to me or like close friends. Usually, having that outside third perspective is very helpful. I was talking to a friend last night. I was telling about a film idea I have based on this road trip we took down in 2019 across the U.S. And we talked about it before I even left. And I've got all this footage, and he knows me, and he knows where I want to go with it. But a lot of times with projects like these, people outside of my own unique perspective have sometimes a much clearer sense of it. Or sometimes when I'm editing things, when I run them by people, it's much easier because you become attached personally to like, oh, well, I need to keep this, this, and this, and this. And sometimes it's hard to let go of that. I guess what I think is the right way to do something. But usually in hindsight, after whatever those changes look like, it's like, oh, yeah, you're right. It does make it stronger. So for me, outside help is tremendously valuable.
Perfect. So we can get some outside perspective to best grasp the context of what's going on. I know that one thing I would be doing if I'm coaching somebody is I would actually say, it's kind of like a food journal, like awareness can have a curative effect. I would say, I just need you to document your minutes for your day to truly put our finger on exactly what is happening. So you say you're having difficulty being structured and stuff, but what is exactly happening? Are you working for 10 minutes, then jumping on Facebook and swiping through a million things for 20 minutes, then working for 10, jumping on Instagram, or are you throwing little waste trash balls into your little basketball net in your office? I would just want to get clarity on at what points do you diverge from your structure? What does this actually look like?
I think the challenge for me is I'm always putting out fires, and I have my iron in too many fires. I have a company and there's like text threads that come in throughout the day. So I'm always like jumping into that and solving problems. And then I'm supposed to be proactively working on the back end or the marketing end of the business, and then there's these side projects and film projects and home, organization projects and other projects. And I rather, what works the best is when I pick one and drill down deep and like dive into it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I just end up like reactive instead of proactively. I'm just reactively, do a little bit of this, do a little bit of that, do a little of that, and none of them really gather momentum because I'm not spending the time on it.
There's a book written called Touch of Love by Jyotish and Devi Nayaswamy, and they talked about Warren Buffett and Bill Gates had become friends. Okay, and you know that each of them are hugely successful, but when asked what was the one word that best described what helped them most in their success, they both said focus. That one word. And Warren Buffett suggests this exercise for people that are in your situation. Warren Buffett says, write a list of 24 or so goals that you want to achieve within a set time period. So it could be, okay, here's 24 things I want to accomplish this week, right? Then he says, circle the 5 most important on that list. Now you have 2 lists. And the first list, you rename avoid at all costs. Okay? So you have your 5 most important, and then you have the list of ones you avoid at all costs. Buffett said that the difference between successful people and really successful people is that the really successful people know how to say no to almost everything. But just know that you're in a battle that you might not know about and a journey that you might not know about. And this is probably a big part of that journey, is learning to say no to those things, because other people have gone through the land that you're going through, the land of focus difficulties as a business entrepreneur. And they faced a challenge they didn't know of. And that's this focus and prioritization, right? So anyway, something to think about. Patty and Chris, do you have any thoughts?
I think when you talk about how we can best understand what's going on, situational awareness pays dividends. I was having a conversation with the mother of this soon-to-be 6-year-old last week, and she had mentioned, hey, you'll never guess what, my son just got accepted into this STEM program, STEM program. I'm so excited about it. So now when I go to do the dartboard and it's not working, I remember that nugget of information that I can give to this friend and said, none of these toys are going to work. What are we going to do? And now I'm actively listening at that last conversation a week ago to help me in this conversation now, to give that information out so that I can reap something in return for it. Why is this story so important to me? Because here I am in my 50s, well into my 50s with no children. So for me to show up, I want to be able to at least have a little bit of knowledge about what's going on and be confident about it. And this is how I'm doing a little recon work in order to gather information to do it. But I think how we best understand what's going on is to be active listener and have a lot of situational awareness.
Excellent. And they say that, self-awareness leads to self-regulation. So the more we can be aware of exactly what are our points we diverge and everything else, the more power we have, right? Excellent. So why don't we go on to, how am I personally responsible would be question 9. What about question 10? What outcome do we want? Why don't we go on to this one? What outcome do we want? Joel?
Well, to me, the outcome is not the short-term accomplishment of any one thing. It's to retool my habits or my structure so that I'm more effective over the long term. So I guess to grow, basically, to improve.
Okay, to retool habits and structure in the long term.
At a core level, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Because we're going to have some when we get into the solutions, we're going to base it around that. How do you need to adapt and evolve? How do you need to adapt and evolve? What are your personal obstacles? Those would be questions 11 and 12. What are your thoughts?
To adapt and evolve, I was thinking about this earlier today, and I'd mentioned that sometimes, I'll get sidetracked by distractions. I was even looking at articles today on, I don't know, NPR or something about dumb phones, and that they're making a return like in popularity because you can't get sidetracked by apps and internet. They just make phone calls and text messages. But yeah, I mean, for me, I was thinking about it earlier today, and I realized it'd be really helpful to block certain things on my computer that become a big time suck. If I know that that's a problem, and I think that would probably help, like you said, writing down, journaling. Like, is it similar to a food list? Like, what am I spending time on? And I think intuitively, I already kind of know. But having that awareness about it is kind of key to solving it.
Yeah. Yeah. So getting clear on what exactly that is. And then, perhaps remembering your why. And then you say, why am I really doing this? Am I doing this to be able to build this business I believe in so I can set an example and provide for my family and go on all these great trips? Or am I doing this to dink around on some apps? Like, what is my life really about at the end of the day? Because there's always going to be tempting distractions in life. That's the strength of them, right? Is that, yes, they are tempting. And that's part of what we all have to face, right?
And the why gets you the leverage to make changes.
Exactly. Just remembering the why. So the next question would be, number 13 would be, how can we best leverage other people in this? So how can we best leverage other people?
I'm going to defer to Patty on this. I'm going to defer to Patty on this.
I think I just gave the example of leveraging, other people who are mothers and dads to reach out to them about their thoughts for this gift. And I know this isn't business oriented or anything like that, but I just hope to use this story to show that whoever may see this video or whenever they see it, that these questions can be asked for anything in your life where you're needing, guided answers. And I think leveraging people means leveraging the relationships that you have. The divine, our creator, the spirit allows us to connect with others on a very energetic level. And it's amazing when we open ourselves up to receive people, how those people now, even if they're just standing there and they're a complete stranger, could be of great value and worth to us, and vice versa, if we're just open to receiving it. So I think we can leverage people in a lot of different ways by just having the courage to talk to them, to reach out to them, to connect with them, to serve them in the moment by letting them go first in the line or whatever. Just opening up a conversation in the middle of the store saying, hey, I'm trying to get this gift for a 6-year-old. What do you think?
Love it.
I'm a big fan too of preemptively like helping people or providing value to people. Like, not just always asking things, but like, how can I help you? And that all has reciprocity. But yeah, it's interesting, Patty, you mentioning like, spiritual connection to God or the creator. The more you pay attention to it, the more you see that all these things are almost like orchestrated. Like I found in my own life that the things that I need to learn, or the things that'll help me to what comes next, is always right there through some person that is like a catalyst for that. And it's just cool when you start paying attention, which goes back to the first thing of gratitude, like just being aware of it. It's almost like we just need to notice that it's happening and to tap into it and to be aware and to talk to, like Patty's saying, to talk to people about it.
And you can even say, you don't have to know how to best leverage people specifically. You could say to me, Brendan, you understand this problem. How can I best leverage you here? And then I would say to you, Joel, here's what I want you to do tomorrow. Journal your entire day and then email it to all of us to keep you accountable. and to be able to just kind of run things by your support team.
Mhm.
Right? Because I'd say this is part of the process. You're building a process and it's hard to see the forest from the trees. Right?
Mhm.
So this is kind of like, make this a group project, because generally with focus difficulties, we do better with help and outside help and support and accountability.
Yeah,
Accountability is the big one.
accountability is a huge one for me. And, Patty and I have kind of been accountability buddies in the past. But yeah, just, it's almost like even knowing that you're going to have to send that out forces me to like make better choices in the moment, because I know that they're going to be looked at. And I would want to, in a sense of like whatever, like low level ego or significance there is, like just wanting to know that I'm doing my best and have others see that.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So that's something to think about. I also know that there is another solution that that I thought of, that I'm not sure if you've explored this as much yet, but I know that they've done some research at the Max Planck Institute, and they found that some specific meditation techniques like Hong Sa, Kriya, enhance thickness in the anterior prefrontal cortex and the anterior cingulate cortex, which are all about attention and focus. So basically, meditation itself can help us be better at focus, right? Because I mean, if you look at what meditation is, it's all about, focusing on your breathing and your focal points without letting your mind wander and take you down different tracks. And like, if you have a meditation practice that you're doing every day or twice a day, then you're actually wiring yourself to better focus, because your body vehicle is just wired to get distracted by all kinds of frills and silly things all the time, right? So it's kind of like just being able to engineer your brain to be able to focus better could be an approach to consider if you're not doing so already, right? Yeah, so something to think about. Let's go on to the next question here. Okay, here are some things. How can we make this work? How can you get into the best? I'm gonna pack 3 of these questions together and just throw it out there, and all of us can chime in here. How can we make this work? How can you get into the best state to succeed? And what are all the possible solutions?
I just want to back up to one question that was like, what, how am I personally responsible? I just want to say that taking 100% ownership for the position that you're in right now, good, bad, or indifferent, whether whatever it is, it's no one else's fault. You can make up 110 million excuses for everything and everyone, but at the end of the day, you are solely responsible for the outcomes, for what happens. Joel just mentioned this about accountability, but accountability comes from a place of, hey, I need to be accountable to somebody else because I'm responsible here, and so I need shored up. So I think this whole thing about personal accountability is because we know that we are 100% personally responsible for everything that's happening around us and to us.
Mm-hmm.
And then just to get back to your questions that you asked, like, how can we make this work? How can I get into the best state, to succeed? And what are all the possible solutions? Now you're getting down to the nuts and bolts and the how-tos, of what you're going to do to make this happen. And on a larger scale issue, I would definitely be writing some of these things down and then circling what those solutions are. For me, it was a puzzle piece that I had to put together, just going through my mind. Okay, what are the resources I have in order to get this gift for this weekend? Okay, I know this person, this person, this person, and now I'm going to run them through in the fastest way that I can get to the people that I know who's available first, because I only have a limited amount of time to spend on this. So I was able to do that pretty quickly, but other times it's not so simple. And I have to visually see it and just kind of sketch those out
even if it's on a piece of paper, and then circle them out and prioritize them.
I love that idea. I love that idea. Get all those ideas down, evaluate which ones are the best, prioritize which ones are the best, and just roll with it as an experiment, right?
And I don't spend a day on it. It's like, let's take 5 minutes and get what we can get out, and then let's pick them and put them in order, and let's roll. And then if we run up against a brick wall, then we got to stop and regroup.
There you go. There you go. It doesn't take long. It's not that people can't do this. It's that people never make a sincere effort to do this, right? We can all do this, and it only takes a couple minutes. We can plan out how to overcome the obstacles in front of us. It's just that we never get that intentional about it, right? Chris, do you have any thoughts on possible solutions moving forward?
I think the sequence should be a little different, that getting to a strong state first, then assessing what your options are, and then acting on it. So that way you have the energy. So when you're in that positive state, you're more aware, you're creating better options for yourself, and you're analyzing better options yourself. I love Patty's idea of, no, this isn't going to take all day. We have a 5-minute time limit. We're going to get these suggestions done, and then we're going to act on them in the next 10 minutes. So rather than this drawing itself out, dragging itself, allowing yourself to let it have its own distractions, or if it's too hard to think about, we tend to find other easier things to think about. So I like the fact that Patty kind of boiled it down here: 5 minutes to figure it out, 10 minutes to act on it, and then we'll regroup and figure out if it worked or not. And that's really about it.
Okay. Joel, do you have any thoughts on solutions, how to make this situation better?
Kind of what Chris said was what stuck out to me about, question 15 of how to get into the best state, because I've noticed that the days that I am the most productive, I spend the most time ahead of time in a good routine, exercising, priming, doing my spiritual study. And the days that I don't do well is when I just wake up and just start doing things, and I'm just more reactive to the day. So as he mentioned, getting into that state's everything. Like you work in a high energy, high gratitude state, and you're going to get completely different results than a low energy, pessimistic, getting in front of the news first thing in the morning, which unfortunately I do sometimes too. And yeah, I mean, to the solutions, I mentioned earlier that I think we know a lot of what we already need to know. I think we have that connection with our creator, that infinite mind that we're all tapped into, that we express. And I think the solutions uniquely, once you're in that good mental place in a good state, the solutions are there. It says knock and the door will be opened. So, I can see going through this process, some of the things that really stand out to me for solutions, really focusing on the why, really documenting my timing, what you mentioned about listing out 12 things and having a list of not to do, because I think I don't really think of not to do things, and even just, eliminating distractions. But I just love that idea of receptivity to what is being, presented in front of you each day, and just being in a state of receptiveness to it.
Perfect. Okay. I'm gonna try to just package this entire conversation now into 5 questions to build a concrete plan. Okay. So we're just going to take everything and let's build it into a concrete plan. 1, what is the habit you want to switch, and why does this absolutely matter? Why is this absolutely worth the effort? Why is this important to you? Why is this important to other people? Becoming more focused at work. So give me your why, if you could.
Why is to have a better quality of life with those that I care and love, and to not waste my time, not get to be like 80 or 90 and be like, what the heck did I do with my life of any consequence? And not just for significance, but for contribution. Now is the time to be doing as much as I can and helping others as much as I can, and it would be a waste to not be using that well.
So to reframe it then, would you say that your unique mission in life with contributing and sharing your love and wisdom and your gifts all rides on this?
Yeah.
That if you don't do this at all, that it works against your mission in life.
That's a big why. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, if you can attach this habit change to your mission in life, there's very few things that are more motivating than that, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, look, my whole life mission depends on, if I don't do this thing, I'm failing at my entire life mission, all of it, right? So realize how important this is, because if you don't, you will never put in sufficient effort. If the why is not clear and compelling, people always put in a half-hearted effort. That is a timeless classic downfall in this moment. You must realize that this is 10 out of 10 important. Now, the next question I've kind of got your answer for. So you never put in the necessary effort unless you're aware of this is the battle of your life right now, right? This is where, you could call it sloth might get you, right? Mental laziness, recognizing there's a problem and not putting in the sufficient effort to overcome it, and having it hold you back from shining your brilliance and your higher potential, right? So it's kind of dark. It may darken your shine. Now, I'd say question 2 is, what have you tried? It sounds like you have tried just kind of some prep routines and it's helped, right? When you have this sort of prep, what's your preparation routine that really works?
The one that works is when my alarm clock hits, I just put on my exercise shoes, I get on the treadmill, and I just get my body moving. I don't drink coffee, so for me, just getting the blood circulating is a good way to get moving. And then usually I'll just do priming right after that. I'll jump in the shower, and then I'll just, go through 30 minutes of spiritual study. And that's a good, physical, mental, place to launch out from.
Okay, so this is excellent. And you've found that when you don't do this, those are the days you have challenges with focus.
Yeah.
Now we have something very clear and concrete. So I would say to you this. I would say for the next 7 days in a row, make it a goal to set your alarm clock. At what time do you set it at?
Usually 6:50, something like that.
Okay, set your alarm clock for 6:50 a.m. Have your shoes right beside the bed. And all you have to do is just wake up at 6:50 and put on your running shoes. That's it. That is it. Now, if you want to then go on the treadmill and, do your priming, jump in the shower, do 30 minutes of spiritual study, that's on you. All I'm going to ask you to do is put on your shoes every morning at 6:50 a.m. for 7 days in a row. Do you think you could do that?
I can. I know that I've caught myself many days in the past where I've put those shoes on and I haven't hit the exercise machine. I've just found myself halfway through the day with them on. I'm trying to think how to take it one little step further.
Okay, put on those shoes and then stand on the treadmill. You don't even have to start it. Put on the shoes and stand on the treadmill. Let's take it one little step further. How does that sound?
That's good.
Okay, perfect. And, we could say this. My question 3 would be, how is it working out for you? So it's like, what have you tried and how is it working out for you? For me, it sounds like it works out for you really well when you do this. And when you don't do it, it doesn't work out well. So we don't really need to mix in some new wisdom or perspective or overcomplicate your life here. It's just a matter of being consistent with a process and system that works for you, while honoring the fact that this serves your mission in life and that this should be considered part of your business process. Just like paying payroll, you just need to get on the treadmill and run and shower and do your spiritual work to start the day. Right? So anything else you might add to how is it working out for you?
The days that I really hone in, after that routine, I hone in on what are 3 things that I need to get done today, and then I really commit to those. Also leads towards a much higher percentage of success.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. So I'd say that. So it's 3 daily goals, right? To commit to. That's great. Perfect. We could add that to the process. Even if, could you just even have that as a question hanging in front of your treadmill or something so that you have to mentally answer it when you go through this routine? If we can stack these habits somehow, much greater likelihood that you'll get into a flow with them. What do you think?
Yeah, so I have my mission poster from doing Date with Destiny that has a lot of my stuff at my treadmill, and that's what I read through while I'm exercising.
Okay, perfect. So you've got the prompts there.
But I'm always open to more
Okay.
and better questions.
All right. And, kind of having this bit of a self-awareness reflection, what have you learned from these previous experiments and everything you've done so far? What have you learned? So question number 4 is basically, what have you learned from your experience so far?
I've learned that if I don't isolate my time, like if I don't put on do not disturb, then I'm always just getting into reaction mode. And if I turn on the news in the morning, which I've never had like an aha moment where I'm like, oh, the world's at peace, yay, it's finally happened. If I flip on the news and just get into that like lower mindset of garbage and like, I mean, it's not that there's not a lot of chances that need or not a lot of challenges that need prayerful support. They do, but maybe I should be doing that later in the day after I'm going through a lot of my stuff that I should be focusing on, and not just reacting to stuff.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, you've learned this is the battle of your life, and one of your main opponents is the news. That is your daily battle. It's you versus the news, which is really you versus the darkness. You're going to have to choose who you're going to serve each day, the light or the dark. And just know that we have the evidence that the darkness is coming to you through the news. This is a big something to take serious. Like, this is your spiritual battle during the day. If that's what it's doing to you, then
So
absolutely.
That and distractions of just menial stuff like social media. It just pulls my purpose and my why, or that I allow to.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we don't want to get into that. We don't want to create self-justifications, because that's where we get really pulled into that darkness. It's like the Freudian model, the little devil on the shoulder whispering, oh, it's okay. Watch the news. You've earned it. You deserve it. Don't worry. This is fun. Right. It's like, no, look what's happened to my mind. I'm full of fear and negativity and I'm distracted. Like, I was going to do so many beautiful things for people today, and I indulged in this mental junk food. Like, what the heck is this? Right. So you can always come up with a good reason to do every bad thing out there. Like, it's a matter of just being able to recognize that voice of temptation. Right. So, question 5 in this is going to be, what do you want to try next? Okay. So what do you want to try next? And I'm going to give you some prompters here. How might you modify or switch your environments, people, or activities to make habit change easier?
What was number 4 question?
What have you learned from your experiences? Was question 4.
Mm-hmm.
So he learned put on a do not disturb or you get in reaction mode. He learned that flipping on the news gets his mind into the gutter. So that's probably where he's diverging on focus. Is there's a couple little indulgences that are really kind of throwing them off course, right? Which is great. And maybe there's some others that we don't know about yet, and that's where the journaling might catch some of those. But he's, because we've asked these questions, he's been able to identify some patterns there. So yeah, it's like, how might you modify your environments or other things to make habit change easier? How can you commit yourself to this until you get hooked? What needs to be remembered for you to succeed? What needs to be remembered for you to succeed? And how can you make sure to remind yourself? And a big one might be like, what small action steps can you take to prepare or build momentum for switching this habit to becoming more focused, right? So what are your thoughts? What do you want to try next?
Yeah, I mean, what needs to be remembered to be able to succeed? I think, it's so simple when you distill all of this down. It's really just course correction. It's like saying, hey, what's like, take a step back. What's working? What's not? And like, what am I going to do about it? What am I not willing to tolerate anymore? So I think what needs to be remembered to be able to succeed is really the why, perhaps, to get enough leverage, and to not let the minutia of day-to-day life interfere with that or disrupt it. Be proactive.
Yeah, and remember that minutia is actually the greatest villain to your why. It's in disguise as little innocent indulgences. But that is the power of these things to take you off your life course, is that they seem so little and innocent. But then when you realize what they're doing is they're bringing you more into that mental darkness and confusion and muddled headspace, and that's taking you away from being a force for good to the degree in which you're capable, right? So I would say realize take very seriously these distractions and what they ultimately do, right?
Well, and when it's repeated in lots of little time, a lot of little instances, it's not minutia. It becomes a much, bigger gravitas. Even with, I look at like half the things that are on Netflix. There's so much that's just focused on like, thrilling and gore and like zombies, and there's not so many like really feel good stories or documentaries that are in a positive focus. It's a lot of like shock value, which is kind of what the news is too. It's like they want the clicks, they want you to stay on that page longer, and the shock value does it, which is a little odd in terms of the overall human condition, that we're drawn to these things and not drawn to the great stories that we should be, or the people helping each other. But yeah, the minutia adds up and is kind of the overarching problem if you don't call it out for what it is, even though it's like you're saying, it's a little suggestions here and there, but in a greater aggregate total.
Excellent. Now, here's what I would say before we move forward with the next experiment. Okay. So the experiment is you're going to do your routine, that morning routine you have that has worked for you, correct? And so I would say the best, a model I like to use is to do a 7-day challenge. Do it every day for 7 days in a row. If you miss one day, you have to start again at day 1. Let's see if you can, first of all, conquer the 7-day challenge. Are you up for the 7-day challenge?
I am. And
okay. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look you in the face. Joel, look me in the eyes, man. Look at Patty. Look at Chris. We're your friends and we're here to help you out, right?
Yep.
We're counting on you. Don't let us down.
What's interesting? So I know that I have to get up like a couple hours early in the dark of night tomorrow and drive somewhere first thing. And so like my reactionary mind is like, okay, so I'll just set the 7 days out from, Wednesday instead of Tuesday. But now it's like, nope, I got to find a way to make it happen anyway. Which means I got to get up at like 4 or something. But, I like the challenge. I like challenges.
If you do that, that's a great way to build momentum. That's an awesome way to do it. And just think about a time. Tell me about a time when you felt strong and powerful. Tell me about any time in your life when you felt strong and powerful.
When I have had experiences with others, it's usually outdoor related adventure things where it was really tough going and it was really challenging, and like, Hail Mary, pulled it out of the hat, whatever it was, like we overcame together. And it's just this awesome, like triumphant moment that you celebrate with people.
Awesome. So just like those outdoor adventures you have where you pull it all together and you have that triumphant moment, you have another opportunity to be strong and powerful again. And you have another opportunity to be strong and powerful by taking control of your life mission again, getting your hands back on that wheel, starting with tomorrow at 4 a.m.
Nice.
Getting those shoes on, standing on that treadmill, message us after, keep us in the loop, right? Once you build this momentum, you'll be, a cause set in motion, right? But just remember, this is all about just tapping into your strength. Once again, this is the battle of your life. This is why you're here. You're here to defeat all these things that shrink you down to a lower level of what you could be. Right?
Well, I think it's cool to framework it as the battle of your life, because I think the easy thing to accept is, oh, it's just another day. Just another day. I can do it tomorrow. It's just another day. But again, the aggregate total of all that is a life wasted. So you really have to see it as, no, it's a battle, and it's, at some point you got to be willing to just put your foot down and be like, no more. Like, it changes today, or
Yep. Take it just one day at a time. And then just ask yourself, who am I here to serve, the light or the dark?
Mhm.
And then when these little things come up, is this really serving the darkness or the light? Is it just bringing me down into mental darkness, or is it enlightening me and others and elevating us? Right? Just take it on a day by day basis. Right? Okay. Why don't we go into some key takeaways from today? Chris, key takeaways, final thoughts?
I think it was a great strategy and structure to change current courses in life. I think how Joel was expressing all these were course corrections. I think this is a great structure and questions to help do that course correction and do it consistently. I also like the fact of the 7-day challenge, because this type of thing will not happen. It's like washing. You don't do it one day and you're done. This is something you have to do on a daily basis for that habit to set in. And I think that's what makes this list, although long, is profitable for everybody, to help change those small, minute habits that lead to changing bigger habits. The smaller changes you make, the larger ones will come and follow.
Well
so it's a great
said.
place to start.
Well said. Love it. Love it. So well said, Chris. You crushed it there, man. Love
what
it.
is the 2% trajectory?
Yeah. You aim a telescope, you change a telescope by like 2 millimeters, changes the end destination by millions of light years or something crazy, right? Like, and that's kind of how our life is. Like, you start to, if you start to just get up and do this morning routine every day now for the rest of your life, just imagine the difference it's going to make.
Yeah, monumental.
Yeah, compared to getting pulled into stuff that pulls you down and distracts you and everything else. I mean, nobody on their deathbed says, I wish I watched the news more, right? Like,
Yeah, I wish I got stuck on social media more. And it doesn't have, there's no like net positive benefit from it. Like, I can't think of any positive benefit I've derived from it.
I mean, you could argue maybe consuming it so that you can create it, like getting inspiration. There might be some, but certainly unless we found some way in your situation that helps you serve the light, then probably not in your circumstance, right? Absolutely. Patty Baker, key takeaways, final thoughts.
I think it's always good to look at your morning routine and dismantle it and rebuild it in a way that works for the season you're in. And I've recently dismantled my morning routine and said, what are the key things that I need to make happen during the morning? And tomorrow I have a really early morning as well, but I don't set an alarm. So whenever I wake up is when the Lord wakes me up. Tomorrow happens to, if I can make it to the gym when they open at 5, great. Otherwise, I'm gonna be on the road at 5:30 and I'll hit it at night. But that's not a solid morning routine for me. I'm just trying to fit a little extra in. But I always make sure that I have core things and I have them prioritized. I will rebound and prime. I will grab a shower. I will sit and meditate. I will sit and make a game plan for the day of 3 and 5 things I need to do. I will access my journal for gratitude and things like that. So there are 5 or 6 things that are must-haves for me before I step into my day, whether that's at the gym or the office or wherever. So for me, it's okay if I have to course correct based upon the season I'm in, to back out and refocus, especially if your kids are in a different season. It's a different time of year. You've got other activities that are going on that keep you out later at night. You're doing more traveling or whatnot. And then whatever I don't get done in that morning routine, the next minute that I have to take a break from something, I'm right back to the routine. And I said, listen, this is this is where I am. This is where I left off today. And this is a great place for me to step back into. Doesn't always work out that way, but I know that my core routine is always done regardless of what that early morning schedule may look like from time to time. And I have a checklist. I don't know if you can see it, but I have this little checklist on here. This is my morning routine. And the first thing on the list says brush your teeth. If nothing else gets done today, that's all I'm doing is brushing my teeth. I'm good, right? I'm good. But it gets that minute for me because I am so busy thinking and creating and doing that I don't want to see what's on my routine. I want it to already be down and I just check it off the list. So I think for me tonight, being able to use the 21 questions for routine is powerful because you can use it in any area of your life. But it was a really good overview for me, just in other aspects where I can be using this as well.
Love it. Love it. Great share. Great share. And I love how just winning the day starts with winning the morning, right? Like that kind of, if the morning goes downhill, it's just the rest of the day kind of tumbles with it, right? All right, Joel, key takeaways, final thoughts from you.
I really loved what Patty just said about reassessing periodically, because I think sometimes my routine changes in terms of, like, I'll go on vacation with the family somewhere and everything like shifts, like, and usually I'll just write it off as like, okay, well, I'll get back to my routine whenever we get back, instead of, adapting, which is what Patty's saying. So I think there's tremendous value in like reassessing periodically if something's not working. To me, the biggest takeaway is the simplest one, in a sense of, I really like what you mentioned about the 7 days and just putting the shoes on kind of thing. Like, I always not always, but a lot of times I tend to overthink. Like, I got to do this big chunk to get some momentum. I got to do this big thing. And it's like, you just got to take the first step. You got to do it. And then you got to take the next first step. And so I think for me, the value, because a lot of times I just never take that one little tiny first step, and that's the one that sets you up. So for me, it's just, finding some momentum in carrying on the little things into bigger things, and sticking with it, and building momentum, and not just, being reactive, but setting the tone for each day.
Awesome. Awesome. And I think in some way, this challenge applies to all of us in life, that there are things we could focus on better, right? Because what we focus on creates our reality. What you don't focus on does not exist to the individual, right? Like focus really does. Focus really is such a huge point of leverage in all of our lives. So Patty, love it. All right, everybody. Awesome job out there today. Awesome job. Patty, good to see you again. It's been a while since I've seen you on a call.
Hey, I'm so glad to be here, and I really enjoyed last week's call as well. It was really good, and I got a lot out of it last week. I just love being able to hop in when I can. My business is cranking back up a little bit, so it's been good.
Nice.
You have an abundant life.
I'm full and grateful and full of love and joy and peace. But Brendan, it's good to see you, and thank you for bringing such a great topic tonight and helping all of us. What was your key takeaway as you were doling out this evening's nuggets?
I had a few key takeaways. One was, how prevalent this challenge is in human lives, because there's so many times I've been talking to people and it's just, it's different people, different settings. It's the same issue, right? And it's the same way. And a lot of it comes down to not recognizing it for what it really is. It really is the threat to your life mission on a daily basis. And when people don't really see the threat for what it is, that's the power of it. The power is the subtlety. Just a little bit of distraction every day, and it can kind of hold us back from realizing our higher potential to be a force for good, right? So for me, it's just seeing another example, and I'm just grateful to have the opportunity to help a friend and help whoever else might be watching this recording in future, I would actually thank Joel. Joel was the one that brought this topic. We just improvised it off the cuff. I'm like, but
Distractions are the threat to my life's mission. Got it.
their distractions are the threats of my life vision. Absolutely. Absolutely. We need to, and that's the reason so many of us little distractions take us down, is because we only ever put in a half-hearted effort. If you make it a 10 out of 10 effort to just not watch the news, you won't watch the news. If you make it a 10 out of 10 effort to not jump on those chain emails at work that are just talking about nothingness, that's really the key point, is to apply the adequate effort to overcome these things. Right?
And not do a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
Or a 2 out of 10.
Because it's not a matter of ability. It's a matter of our motivation, right? So, all right. Let's do go team on 3, fist bump, group hug. We're out, okay? Everybody ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Go team.
Go team. Go team. Love you guys.
Be blessed.
Have a great week, guys.
Take care.